Go ahead and throw a thumbs up in the chat if you guys can hear me all right. Perfect. Great. Thanks for joining us, guys. I see some familiar names inside of the chat here. Real quick, as we're waiting for some more attendees to fill in, why don't you guys throw in where you're from and which cycle you're applying or planning to apply in. Jocelyn, Denver, this cycle. All right. I'm seeing a lot of the cycles. That's awesome. So hopefully this info really helps you guys out. I used this last year when I was prepping for my medical school interviews, and I'm happy to announce that I have officially committed to going to medical school next year. So you guys are in for some really great stuff. We have some amazing medical students that are going to help you out with your application. And feel free to throw in any questions you have at any time inside of the chat or the Q&A. We're definitely here to answer all of your questions. Thank you guys. Thanks for all the congrats messages. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and start here. So as you guys know, this is our third annual application bootcamp partnered with SNMA. And so I'm here representing Diverse Medicine, formerly Pre-Med Star. I hope all of you guys are on the site. I'll give you a quick demo afterwards. But real quick, I want to invite Ms. Todd Schell onto the screen here, and she's going to talk to you guys a little bit about SNMA and what they're about.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Drop a yes. Awesome. So thank you all so much for joining this webinar. We're thoroughly excited to continue to host this application bootcamp with Diverse Medicine. This is our third year strong. And thanks to Lauren also for being awesome on these webinars with us. And I'm just on to give you a little bit more information about the Student National Medical Association. And I hope many of you are a part of the organization. I hope many of you attended our conference this past April in Philadelphia. We had over 2,200 participants at this year's conference in Philadelphia. We had about 700 pre-medical students, and we're hoping to have more for next year in Cleveland. So we hope to see you out and present and getting all the information that you'll be getting, of course, on this webinar series for the next few Wednesdays and more in your journey to medical school. So we invite you out to join us there. But to be very brief about the pre-medical aspect of SNMA, many of you may or may not have heard of MAPS, the Minority Association of Pre-Med Students. Some organizations or institutions, it's called the Minority Association of Free Health Students, or your particular name for your organization. And essentially what it does is supports you as a pre-medical student. We have our national committee, and all of you may have had your individual chapters, but at the national level, we essentially support all of you. We secure pre-medical benefits. We introduce, you to awesome opportunities such as these type of webinars, information, resources. We also introduce you to people who are able to help you on your pre-medical journey. And I'm very, very excited to have been a part of the board. I'm the immediate past pre-medical board member. And I know that this year's pre-medical board member, Rania, will be introducing even more great opportunities for you moving forward for this upcoming year. So thank you all for joining, and thank you to our presenters for this webinar. And I hope that you guys enjoy. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Todd Schellen, for sharing a little bit about SNMA with us. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and demo the new site with you guys. So if you guys aren't on Diverse Medicine, I was about to say Pre-Med Star, you should definitely hop on the site. And there's so many benefits to becoming an active member here. So as you guys know, medical school is very difficult to get into, and it requires a lot of organization. So as you guys are filling out your applications, getting ready with your personal statement and involvements, this is a great place for you guys to log all that before you can finally submit your application. So definitely check out the site and create an account if you have not yet so far. You can see here I have my dashboard open, and you can go ahead and send a congrats to Bianca, our highlighted pre-med of the week. Once you could scroll through, you just see a lot of updates from the Diverse Medicine account, any attending physicians or medical schools on the site. They post a lot of really great information on there for you to kind of keep up on. But the biggest thing that I want to emphasize is definitely your profile. So I've learned from my application time and even just my years as a pre-med that it's really, really important and difficult to keep your profile updated and in track. I know we all have a lot of different activities and involvements. It's kind of hard to keep all of those in line. So this is by far my favorite feature. Sorry, my internet's going a little bit slow. You guys can see here is my profile, and really it kind of lets you lay out everything about you to broadcast to other pre-meds across the nation, any recruiters who are on the site, medical students, or attending physicians. We have heard back from a lot of the medical schools who are on the site actively recruiting, saying they really love when students fill out their profiles, and that's the first thing that they look for when they're screening through different pre-meds on the site. So you can put everything on here, like your clubs and organizations, you can put on your different volunteer activities. An important one to keep track of is definitely your clinical experience and hours. So you can keep all of that nicely logged. So you just copy and paste it into your application once you're ready to apply. And really, it's up to you how you like to use it. I like to word my summaries with the same amount of character limits, just so that way I was really prepared for once applications open up. So if you guys have any questions about profiles, you can definitely shoot me a message, shoot a message to Dr. Dale or anyone you see who you'd like to know how they design their profile, and we will definitely share that with you. So now, Dr. Dale, if you'd like to pop back on and say hi to everyone, you are totally welcome to.
What is up? Hey guys, everybody hear me? Let me get some yeses in there. Boom, there we go. There they go, there they go. If you guys don't know, oh, my video went off. There we go. So if you guys don't know, I'm Dr. Dale. So I'm one of the founders of Diverse Medicine, do some other work, Black men in white coats and things of that sort. And you know, my team and I, our entire mission is to bring value to your lives and to help you guys see your dreams come true. That's what we do. That's pretty much all we focus on doing. Is if I'm not taking care of patients, I'm focused on how can I get you guys into medical school. And of course, we have a special emphasis on diversity, which is why we do diverse medicine and all these other things. The thing that I really want to emphasize, I want to echo what Lauren was saying about the Recruitment Center. So we spent, some of you guys have been with us through this for years, watching us battle and try to build this up. So we spent a very long time and a lot of resources and making a lot of connections to help build this platform for you guys to be something you can use for free. So you come on here, you build your profile, and our job is to do the best we can to showcase your profiles to the right people. In other words, we try to get people like Dr. Brad or people from other schools across the country to come on here and see you and give you a fair look when otherwise you might not have never got a look. You might not know that you might be in California and not know that, hey, Dr. Brad might want you at his school, right, if he sees your profile. So we really focus on promoting you guys, showcasing you guys. And it's a very low-hanging fruit for you to spend 10 minutes building your profile on the site. Build it once, update it every few months, but have a profile, because what happens is we get messages from recruiters and they'll ask us to not show you in the recruitment center. They'll say, if a student's profile isn't built, take them out of the recruitment center. Right, so we don't want to deal with that. We want to be able to showcase you guys so you guys have the best opportunity possible. And the schools want this. So this week alone, we've had 5 schools join the site, right? You guys will start to see things coming up and we'll start to promote more things. It's in the background, so you guys won't see it right now as we're finishing some stuff. But we're going to start bringing a lot more schools, giving you guys opportunities. So take advantage of, if you don't do this, it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's a free resource. Take advantage of it. Maybe Dr. Bright will see your profile and like you. Maybe he won't. You won't know unless we get it up there, right? So that's all I want to say. I want to encourage you guys. And of course, a lot of you guys already send me messages, and you guys know you send me a message. I do my best to get back to you as quick as possible. So if you have any questions about the journey, we've been through it, we're here to help you. And the other thing we're doing is we're starting to bring on a lot more doctors onto the site. So the site didn't have doctors on it before, but now we're opening up so doctors can be on the site and they'll give you feedback and help you guys through the journey. That's all I got to say. It's going to be a great webinar. Lauren, I didn't tell you this, but I do have some poll questions. So I'm going to throw some poll questions up from time to time. And I'm going to throw this first one up while I'm getting off. All right. So you guys answer that question. I'm going to disappear and let Lauren continue.
Okay, you guys, so go ahead and throw your answers into that poll just to give a little bit of feedback to us. And I'm going to go ahead and real quick share a couple more awesome features that are going to be helping all of you applying the cycle, or those of you who really want to be ahead for next cycle. So something new that Diverse Medicine has are these application services. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up here, and it's going to bring you to a different tab. So this is the pre-health market, and it's a bunch of really affordable services that you guys can use to kind of help you along on your journey here. So we're going to have Omo on for a big portion of our webinar talking about the personal statement. So for some of you, this might be the first time that you're going to approach writing your personal statement. Hopefully you have some drafts behind you. If not, that's totally okay. So if you feel like after this webinar, you would love someone to personally look over your personal statement, we have those options for you. So I'm going to go ahead and click here at the pre-medical tab, and you can see all the different services that we have to help you out on your journey. We have MCAT studying, essays and personal statements. We have multiple people who are very experienced with reading and writing personal statements who can give you any type of feedback. So anything from medical students to even an attending physician can go ahead and review your personal statement and give you personalized feedback. So definitely look into using that as a resource before you consider your personal statement final.
So I'm going to jump in one more time because I forgot about this whole pre-health market thing. So this is really important because what we kept on running into is a lot of the pre-meds were looking for help, and the only services that are out there cost like $200, $300, $400. And, you know, we didn't think that was right for you guys who wanted to get this help. So the way we formatted this is we built it so medical students could offer the services for you guys. So the medical students get paid to do this for you guys, right? So for example, Lauren, who's going to be in med school next year, she can make $35 or whatever by helping you review your personal statement. So you get a cheap deal, which is a great deal. And then Lauren gets a little bit of money as a med student, right? So this is an option for those of you who don't want to pay $500, $1,000 to get these things done, but you still want services from people who know how to help you. All right. Now I'm really done this time, Lauren. Bye.
Exactly like what Dr. Dale said. Very, very cheap and affordable services, but I can personally vouch that they are incredibly helpful. I used them out as I was prepping for my application and the whole cycle, and it works. So if you want a little bit of extra practice or another helping hand, definitely look into those. I know you won't be disappointed. Real quick, going back to the overview, one thing we were talking about was filling out your profile to get actively recruited. We'd had students recruited to medical school or different special master's programs or postbacks. So eyes are looking at your profiles. It's very, very important to fill that out. If you go to the Recruitment Center here on Diverse Medicine, you're going to see all of our affiliated postback programs and medical schools. So you can scroll through here and check out based off of average GPA and MCAT, also location, and you get a lot of really great information from them. So real quick, I'm gonna click on the Brody School of Medicine at ECU because we have Dr. Bright here to come speak with you. So Dr. Bright, if you'd like to share a little bit about ECU, that would be awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for having me on. Can everybody hear me? I guess I'll tell you, throw some yeses up. All right, there we go, there we go. All right. Dr. Bright here from Brody School of Medicine. I'm past president of the National Medical Association, so once you finish SNMA and MAPS and all of those activities, you can come and join us at the national level. I'm at East Carolina now. I used to be at UNC. I am a Tar Heel. That's where I graduated from medical school, but now I'm in East Carolina. I'm a pirate. Arrgh. And so I want to just welcome you to this event this evening. And what I will tell you about Diverse Medicine is that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this organization since its inception with Dr. Dale. And so I've seen it grow from its infancy to where it is today. And I'm very proud of the network that he's putting together and all of the accoutrements that are part of this network that you get to utilize that I and my generation never had. You know, we had to depend on people that we had to meet. We had to find them. We had to look for them. Now it's right at your fingertips. So use it, and use it. I want to tell you one thing about the Brody School of East Carolina. Its mission statement is awesome. And then one of the parts of his mission is to, number one is to, help generate health professionals for Eastern North Carolina. The second part is to help increase the number of diverse racial and minority racial ethnic participants access to medical school itself. So right within our mission, we have a mission of increasing diversity off the bat. The only drawback to our school is that we're an in-state school and we only look at in-state applicants. But I'm a national platform, and so I work with everybody, whether you come to me or you go someplace else. My bottom line is, as Dale said earlier, I'm a dream maker. My whole idea, when I'm not taking care of patients, when I'm not doing other things, I'm working on trying to help you make your dream come true. Because every time another one of you makes your dream come true, that gives me another option as I get older as to what position I'm going to go to get my care. So I want you to be your dream to come true so you can help me take care of myself as I get older. I'm going to tell you just one little nugget here tonight, and I want you to really think about this. Number one, don't rush to medical school, because medical school is going nowhere. You get yourself ready to come to medical school and apply when you are at your best, okay? Don't get on a timeline and push yourself and make yourself go frenetic trying to get someplace when you're not ready. Get ready, we'll still be here. And the second part is, there is no one path to the end game of becoming a doctor. You can come through the front door. If you can't get in the front door, you can go in the back door. How about the back door's closed? Well, there's a window. If you can't get through the window, hey, we got a roof. I'll come through the chimney. Bottom line is, as long as you got life and breath in your body and you're determined to make it happen, there are many ways that you can get to that final destination. I'm a dream maker. I'm here to help you do that. Diverse Medicine Resource Center is here to help you do that. All of us here on this podcast tonight are here to help you do that. That's what we like to do. That's our passion, and we're here for you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. Everyone go ahead and say a big, huge thank you in the chat. We really appreciate you coming and speaking with us. If you guys want to follow up with him or learn more about his school, go ahead and connect with that Brody School of Medicine page on Diverse Medicine I showed you. Dr. Bright was previously with UNC. I just want to make a quick announcement that he is now with ECU. And so don't go to the UNC page, because they are not actively recruiting right now. So let's go ahead and jump into the presentation. We have Omo here, the president of SNMA, and she's going to talk to you about one of the most important parts of your application, the personal statement. So she has a lot of wisdom to share with you guys. Go ahead and throw your questions as they're coming in the chat. We'll go ahead and try and answer those for you. And Omo, you have the stage.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Hey, I'm so excited to do this webinar for you all this evening. As Todd Shell mentioned, this is our third year. And I was so excited the first year that we worked with Dr. Dale to even put this on. So as they said, my name is Omonivye Abogidi, and I am the new national president for the Student National Medical Association. So I'm hoping that there are definitely some folks in the chat and just on the webinar that I was able to meet at AMEC. So if you weren't there, don't worry. Cleveland 2020 is going to be just as lit and just as amazing. So I'm going to be talking to you all this evening about writing your personal statement. And it's so interesting that this came up, and this was the topic that I was selected to do because I recently just went through this process again. I'm currently a second-year medical student at Wright State University, Boonshoff School of Medicine in Dayton, Ohio. However, this upcoming year, I'll be going to University of California, Berkeley to get my master's of public health. So I found myself this past spring having to, again, write a whole new personal statement. And I literally had to revert to the same PowerPoint slides and webinar to just figure out, okay, what was going to be the best way for me to tell my story so that programs and schools can understand who I am, what I've been through, and why I would be an amazing fit for their institution. So I'm going to jump right in, and like Lauren said, I'll multitask. So if you have any questions, put it in the chat box and I'll just be making sure I get to it. And if I don't get to it, of course, email us, follow up with us, and we'll make sure we get all those questions answered. So the next thing I'm going to do is share a PowerPoint that I have prepared for you all, just to go through some of the highlights, I think, and just the tips and traps that we just don't want you all to fall into as you prepare to apply to medical school. So let's go ahead and, okay, I hope everyone can see the screen. Okay, cool. So I think you all can see the screen. All right, awesome. And yes, we'll make sure that the PowerPoint is uploaded and shared with you all. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So again, I'll be talking about how to get through your personal statement, how to complete the secondary applications that you'll receive after you submit your primary application, as well as walking you through the meaningful activities section. So we'll also go through the 3 most meaningful experiences, and then of course at the end we can wrap it up with questions. So as you can see, there's a little mini me in the corner, so check me out. I'll have little tips as we go through the webinar presentation that you can just take note of, but of course we'll share the PowerPoint, so no stress. So the personal statement. The personal statement is basically your opportunity to explain to admissions directors, committees, why you are passionate about being a physician, and understand that there is a variety of different people sitting at the table reviewing your applications. That includes the deans of the medical school, individuals from the faculty and staff, and also other medical students who know what it's like very recently to have been in your shoes. So understand that there's a lot of different perspectives going in as they try to understand why it is that you decided to pursue a career as a physician. And they're just trying to get an understanding of what is influencing this decision, what's inspiring you, what's motivating you. So this is an opportunity to highlight all those experiences to prove to them that you're making the right career choice. So of course, in preparing to write your personal statement, I'm sure many of you all already have a couple drafts in the works. And if not, it's okay. We're still in early May, and so you definitely have the time to really buckle down and figure out how you're gonna share your voice and your story in your personal statement. For those of you who are planning ahead of time, I would say once you are, ready to jump in, February, April will be a perfect time to do it. On average, you're gonna go through multiple drafts, and that is okay, and that is normal. I think the average is about 8 to 12. And so what you want to do when you're writing these personal statements is really just make sure that you don't sound generic or cliche, avoid those superficial and obvious statements. Ever since I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. And of course, that is true for so many of us, but you want to make sure that you are a lot more reflective and you go deeper into that. What was the experience that made you decide at such a young age that this is why you wanted to do medicine? Include lessons you may have learned throughout the different experiences that you have. And of course, some of these experiences may not be our brightest and shining moment, but you always want to present those challenges in a positive light and really emphasize how you've overcome those challenges, the lessons you learned from it, and how you are a bigger, better, and brighter person after the fact. Now, one thing is sometimes we can get carried away. So you always want to make sure that you are paying attention to what the character or word count is. Because the last thing you want to do is upload your personal statement and it's getting denied. So always keep track of the requirements. So for AMCAS specifically, I believe it's 5,300 characters with spaces. So just double check. So of course, practice makes perfect. Some of the tips that I remember being advised to do was to journal and just have reflections. to help you get in the swing of writing, right? Take a pen and pad, or, you know, open up your Google Doc on your phone, and just sometimes free write things, because you never know when a memory or just a nice transition sentence is going to pop into your head if you're in the shower or if you're driving home. That happened to me a lot. So I would always just jot down things that just, you know, came to me. And then interesting advice I received was read a bit to write a lot. So at first I thought, I didn't realize that that would be a good idea, because I didn't want to read too many other people's statements and try to steer my personal statement by that. But what I realized is that it's just a way to expose yourself to other creative writing samples, other forms of the written word, and just other ways that people have been able to tell their stories. And it could just really just inspire you or just give you new and fresh ideas. So whether that's like news articles, blog posts, short novels, you'd be surprised the different mediums that you realize that you can, you know, read people's written experiences. And that can definitely be a way to just get the wheels spinning. Also, talk therapy. Share those important stories and experience out loud to a friend, or even read it out loud to yourself, or on a recording device. Sometimes it's really good to hear what you have written back so that you can catch some of those points that you might want to add or subtract or rephrase. And it's good to get feedback, I think, from someone who knows you well. Listen, check it twice. So just make sure that you are making a comprehensive list of all your meaningful experiences, writing as much as you can about each of them. So when you're ready to input it into AMCAS, you kind of have a list ready to go. Because sometimes when you try to just look back to your resume, it's a very short and truncated version. So it may not have all the information that you may need. So your personal statement, of course, should be a narrative. It should paint a picture and tell your unique story. Telling why, you know, you want to be a doctor as opposed to any other profession. And for some of you all who have different experience, different backgrounds, maybe it is the experience of being in a different profession that led you to this one, right? Some people may be career changers, or maybe you all were athletes or dancers or musicians. I used to be a stand-up comedian back in the day. So there can be a lot of things that feed into that. So just, of course, just share why it is that this is the career path that you decided to pursue. And if you're someone like me who can ramble and go on and on and on, you definitely want to make sure that you're not making too many generalizations, that the things that you're saying are not so abstract about, you know, the philosophy of the world or the healing of medicine. We know it's important, but again, it's about you and your experience and your perspective. So you don't want to write anything that others would have difficulty understanding. And you definitely want to have your personal statement reviewed by someone who can give you really good feedback, ideally someone who knows you well. And they'll be able to tell you if you're making sense or not, or maybe they'll be able to pinpoint areas where you can be more clear, concise, and succinct, right? Because you only got so many words, so many characters and spaces to really get your story and your point across. So what is the magic number? So a lot of people have run into this issue where maybe they didn't have that many people review their statement, or they had too many people review their statement. And so then they got so much feedback that it was difficult for them to move forward in the writing process. So honestly, I follow the rule of 3 when it comes to people looking over my personal statement. So I have someone who knows me really well. For me, that's my best friend, who's also works at an undergraduate university as a counselor. So I'm glad that she can have that kind of, you know, perspective on the application being in higher education. I always give it to someone who doesn't know me as well, because I think it gives a fresh perspective. So normally that might be like a coworker, or maybe a classmate that I'm not that close with, but we cool, so that they can also read my statement and just give me back some feedback about anything that may have been clear, unclear, and make sure that it just flows really well. And then, of course, I have to give it to an expert, someone who has experience reading these types of personal statements. So whether that's any of my mentors, a medical student who may be on an admissions committee, faculty, former admissions committee members, you definitely want the lens of an experienced reviewer to look over your personal statement. And of course, if you don't know anyone, then that is definitely a great way for you to get involved with diverse medicine. Reach out and find someone who can support you and help you in that capacity. So having one person in at least each of those categories, I think, is bare minimum and should get you enough feedback to help you, again, continue with the writing process. So one thing that you don't want to do in your personal statement is re-walk us through your resume. What I always think about when I'm completing an application, when I was doing my AMCAS, when I'm writing my personal statement, is this is my opportunity to share information that I already didn't share somewhere else. So definitely you may reference or highlight or go in deeper to a specific activity, organization, job, or event, but definitely don't list out everything that you have already mentioned in your resume, because then you're being redundant and losing an opportunity to really highlight and show them sides of yourself that they wouldn't see in other parts of your application. You also don't have to go through and talk about all the classes that you've taken. They see your transcript, they know, and clearly you're applying to medical school, so you're proficient. And of course, if your application has gotten to the point where it is getting reviewed, then they have faith that you can succeed at their institution and succeed in the sciences. And another pitfall that people fall into is focusing maybe too much or on a mistake from the start. Now, granted, your personal statement is an opportunity to, again, highlight any mistakes or issues that may, or challenges that may have come up for you and how you were able to resolve, overcome, or grow from that experience. But you don't want to waste too much time talking about something bad about yourself or a low point in your life. And you don't want to start off on that note. So just make sure, I understand that we do want to be transparent and kind of maybe address it before they have to ask, but you want to be really careful that you're doing it in a strategic way and in a way that always shows you in a very positive light after the fact. So when you have your personal statement, definitely try to think of a theme, right? Maybe you're taking a chronological approach to it. Maybe you're using a specific experience or relationship or encounter that you have to kind of build out your whole story. So pick a theme and try to figure out, okay, what direction am I going to go? Then the next thing you want to do is at least identify 2 or 3 experiences that you know is going to support the story that you're telling. So whether that's maybe like a childhood experience, an experience working with a family member or a friend through a difficult time, maybe it was an experience that you had working with patients, shadowing, volunteering. Just list them out, because you'll never know how you'll be able to weave it in. And it's good to have an idea of those experiences that you really want to use to highlight in your personal statement. Then after that, create an outline. You definitely want your personal statement to flow. You want it to make sense. And I think when you have an outline, you can organize your thoughts better and really kind of dig deep and then build it out. Come up with a good hook. So a hook is, that attention grabbing piece, right? That really can grab the attentions of your readers. Now, you don't need to quote Shakespeare or drop some Kendrick Lamar lyrics in there. I mean, maybe it works, but just come up with, I think, a creative way that really, I think, shows your voice in your personal statement. And so that can just be as simple as, just starting off and just telling more about your personal life or your upbringing, or just why you want to be a physician, right? So just come up with an interesting hook. And of course, like I said before, get feedback. You can have an amazing story to tell, but you just want to make sure that it comes across the way that you envision it. And let me pause real quick. I know I've been talking a lot, and I want to see if I have any questions in the chat box. So let me pull that up. Okay, so I see a couple questions. So one says that my personal statements highlights one of my most meaningful blurbs. Starting your mentoring organization, is this wrong? No, I don't think it's wrong. If you think that this is a really powerful experience that explains why you pursued this path, then I think what you can do is talk more about how it shaped you, what you gained from it in your personal statement. And then depending on how deep you go with that experience in your personal statement, you can decide whether you want to keep it in your meaningful activities, or you may want to highlight other aspects of your participation in the mentoring organization. So I can highlight that a little bit more when I talk about meaningful activities. So maybe in the activity sections, you may highlight more so like the hours, the time, the work that you did, the professional skills you developed, things of that nature. Is there any other questions that... Okay, cool. So I'm gonna keep on going. There seems to be a lot of questions about meaningful activities. So when we get to that, I think I can answer a lot of those questions. So, moving along. So tips for a theme, like I said before, maybe you wanna talk about your characteristics, personality traits that you think really highlight who you are, whether that's about your resiliency, dedication, if it's about the love and the passion that you have towards doing things, whether it's working with children, taking care of others, hobbies or activities that you've had, you'll definitely have opportunities, just like the question that was asked before, to highlight different points in regards to your experiences in different parts of the application. So don't feel pressure to like mention everything in one place, or to not have it spread out across the board. I think the important thing is just making sure that you're painting a very holistic picture of yourself, but you're not being redundant, right? So that you can show all the different sides of you and your experiences and why you're an amazing candidate. So some composition hooks or grabbers, right? So one question would be, how can getting out of bed at 7:30 a.m. be so unexciting, right? And you can think of different ways to really kind of highlight that and make different activities or events that may seem mundane kind of sound more powerful in your writing. So one example would be, life can be made easier for one teenage person if he makes himself get up in the morning. This is what my mother is trying to make my sisters and me understand, right? And so, or some people might use a definition, right, to try and explain that facet. So what is confusion? It's the utter chaos which is seen at my home in the morning, or I live in the middle of a war each morning. So there's different ways, right, that you can make a simple fact or simple aspect of your life more interesting or attention grabbing. So those are the types of things you want to think about or try to, find creative ways to explain in your personal statement. Some people may give a series of facts, right, to kind of build up the anticipation, or they'll share a snippet of an experience, an anecdote, or they may use a metaphor. The sky's the limit. At the end of the day, you just want to use a strategy that really is strong, grabs the reader's attention, and of course, stays true to you and your voice. Okay, all right. So the works and activities and the 3 meaningful experiences. I was seeing a couple questions come up about those. So of course, the purpose of that is to identify those 3 experiences that you consider the most meaningful. And so you do have 15 opportunities. I definitely say fill them up if you can, but if you can't, it's okay. Of course, there's logistical information like your start, end date, the amount of hours you committed a week to that. And sometimes it can be really weird because maybe it's a singular event, like, oh, I attended this conference, like AMEC, or, I participated in this like volunteer activity. So it may not necessarily have, a time frame that you can, easily quantify, but of course, don't get too hung up on the little details, just make sure it's clear and it's complete. And so in these spaces, you definitely want to highlight those meaningful experiences that you think you learned a lot from, maybe one that you put a lot of work or effort into, an experience that maybe really molded and shaped who you are or how you've gotten to this point. So that could be related to something more medical or health related in terms of maybe shadowing, research, volunteering, maybe doing an international health trip abroad, but it can also be maybe more personal activities. So I've seen applications where there was a young lady who did ballet her whole life. So of course she put that in there. There was a student who played an instrument, so, or even athletes. So there's different things you can put in there. So don't feel like you have to put that every experience has to be tailored specifically to a medical school application per se. So definitely prioritize those events, and of course, make sure you describe these experiences in detail. And then of course, your most meaningful experiences, the reason why they're the three most meaningful is because you're allocated a lot more space or word count to really elaborate on the importance of that experience. So some tips in regards to your list of activities is just make sure that again, you're not being too redundant. So you don't want to, again, highlight a bunch of activities that you may have, listed elsewhere in your application. You also want to definitely include what you learned from the experience, gain from the experience, and really put effort into your descriptions. They're really important. And one thing that I always emphasize, and I think this is a rule of truth that'll follow you from medical school and beyond in your professional endeavors, is to quantify, quantify, quantify. So an example of that is, if you have an experience where, let's say, you did do some volunteering. So I put the example, I volunteered at Clínica de la Raza, which served low-income patients. I provided health education to patients and their families during the summer before my senior year. Now, that sounds great. That sounds amazing. However, if you were to write, while volunteering at Clínica de la Raza, I provided health education to over 350 low-income patients and their families over the course of 3 months, that speaks volumes, because it shows the volume of patients you were able to see. It shows how much skill and professionalism and experience you gained from that activity. And also, when you put a time frame too, it also shows, okay, you were able to handle this massive amount in such a short period or long period of time. So definitely try to quantify, right, your activities and experiences. So I have some questions here. Let's see. Should the three meaningful experiences be from that same field or line of work? As I said earlier, it doesn't have to be. I think when I had done my application, I had an experience, I think with SNMA was one of them, my previous national leadership experience. I think my third one was like my work experience that I had at the time, which was in the field of public health. And then my third experience was really personal. I think it was about being in theater and comedy and the performances and things that I had done, and how that correlated to public speaking, communication, conflict resolution. So of course I tied it back into how I grew from the experiences and what I was able to take away from it. Okay, all right, awesome. So I'll keep on moving. So secondaries. So as you may already be familiar, once you submit your AMCAS application, within that application, you identify all the medical institutions that you want to apply to. And then your AMCAS application is sent to every single one of them. Then after the schools get your application, you will receive a secondary application. And that, of course, has another price tag on it and another set of individual questions specific to that institution. So you have to be very, very careful with secondary applications, because so many people fall into some traps with that. So when you get a secondary application, the first thing you want to do is try to get it complete as soon as possible. So rule of thumb, turnaround time, 2 weeks or less, sooner the better. So once you get that secondary application, you want to make sure you work on those essays and submit it. And be careful, some secondaries may just be a survey. Some secondaries just may be 2 additional essay questions. I remember receiving a secondary and it was 6. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So definitely budget time and put thought into it. Answer all the optional questions. Just because it says optional doesn't mean don't do it. You want to utilize every opportunity, every character space, every opportunity you have to talk more about yourself, do it. If it's hard for you to like talk about yourself all the time, this is going to be a difficult process because you want to talk about yourself over and over and over again so that you can demonstrate to the school that you're a good fit. The secondary is more tailored towards figuring out how you fit into their student environment, their student culture, the initiatives and goals and missions of the institution. So what you should not do is reuse the same secondary essay for different schools. So many people do that, and you'll have a secondary in your lap and it says the name of a different institution. It happens. So definitely make sure that when you get that secondary application, go back to that school's website, scroll through their mission, their goals, their initiatives, things like that. Make sure you're connecting to how you fit, and then knock out that secondary and send it on its way. This is an opportunity for them to realize what makes you diverse, unique, and how you can add to their student body, their values, and their history. So that sums the presentation up. I included some links to, I remember some references that I had used when I was applying. The internet is a beautiful and ugly place, so you could definitely get lost in the sauce. So definitely just try to find, a couple of resources that you feel comfortable with. Again, same thing goes for people. Find a couple people that you can confide in so that you just don't get overwhelmed with the amount of feedback and advice that's on the internet. I definitely use UC Berkeley. That's where I went for undergrad as well. Their pre-health advising website. The University of Washington's SNMA chapter had an amazing guide that I used. And then, of course, the MAPS committee has a publication, So You Want to Be a Doctor. Tashelle can probably send that out or make sure that's sent out for folks so that you can have just even a more comprehensive guide that just gives you more information and things that you should be keeping in mind as you go through this application process. There's a lot of steps. There's a lot of things that you have to be mindful of. And we know that not everyone has, a couple of physicians or medical students in their back pocket. So that's why we want to be a resource for you guys so you don't fall into the simple, traps and pitfalls that people fall into. So we have 13 more minutes left. So I guess I could take a couple more questions if anybody has any. Oh, you guys are so welcome. Let's see if there are any quick questions that folks have. Yes, this webinar is recorded. I believe a link will be sent out afterwards so that you can watch it over or put some of your friends on game so that they can learn more about Diverse Medicine Recruitment Center, more about the Student National Medical Association, and how we can get you all on track and have you all sitting here with us in med school. Someone said, should we quantify shorter experiences? Yes, you definitely should. Let's say you did you volunteered and did a blood pressure screening. It was a one-day event, but what if you saw over 100 patients that day? Or what if you distributed a health survey or something? I think when you quantify, it shows the impact that you've had on others, and it also shows the amount of experience you were able to gain. So that's why quantifying is good. And when you quantify these experiences, a good place to do that is in the description box, right? So you have about enough to maybe put 8 good sentences or so when you're describing one of your meaningful activities. So just, quantify those things. So if you did research, talk about, maybe the number of subjects that you worked with. If you volunteered, make sure you kind of highlight, what the impact that you had in that volunteering activity is. Someone asked, about, science prerequisites at a community college. Are community college credits for prereqs okay? Yes, I believe that when you satisfy community college prerequisites, you should also include it on your AMCAS application. And you should definitely add it as a school that you attended. I think that you just have to be, a bit extra thorough and double check the institutions that you're applying to, because some schools will explicitly say, oh, yes, we accept prerequisite courses from community college, undergraduate institutions, and some schools may explicitly say that they do not. So not saying that you have to like go through and change up your whole list, but just make sure that you're double checking if there are any schools that make that distinction. And that was a pretty good question. Okay, to what extent should you express personal views in your personal statement in regards to feminism, equality in medicine? Absolutely. Again, it makes you who you are. I think that you have to be very tactful about it and make sure that you're not necessarily, I would say, saying anything that may be offensive or inflammatory. Now, I know that's very vague, I guess, of a response, but think of it this way. You don't know who's reading your application, and you want them to focus on maybe how your personal views shape who you are, right? So maybe you can talk about how this personal view or this experience has shaped how you look at women and children, or, maternal mortality, infant mortality. And I think connect it back to like your passion and views and how it connects to medicine. And I think that's a really great way to highlight who you are, the types of views that you have, and how you add to their institution. And of course, have somebody read it so you make sure you don't sound crazy. But of course, I think that you're going to do a great, job of really presenting yourself in the best light and having people understand you, even if they don't agree with those personal views. It's all about telling your story and having people understand your background and where you come from. And another question, will it look bad if we put more activities in the work activities section that are non-clinical over those that are clinical? Also, in describing these experiences, should we put more about what we, it moved, did instead of the actual job description? Okay, good question. So I don't think non-clinical versus clinical, it depends on the institution. So I think you should include what you think is important and what you think highlights characteristics or like really good attributes that you have. So I mean to say that if you, let's say, shadowed in a doctor's office for one day, but maybe you volunteered at a daycare center for 3 years, like, you can see how both of them may be valuable, but I do see how this, daycare center, which someone may view as non-clinical, may be more impactful and highlight your experiences better. So I don't think you should worry too much about clinical versus non-clinical. If you do have a really great clinical experience, I think you should include it. Granted, you have 15, but if you have a non-clinical experience that you think is amazing, include it. And if non-clinical outweighs the clinical, I think it's okay, as long as it just highlights why you're amazing, why you're dope, and why you should be accepted into that school. And then the second part of your question was, in describing these experiences, should we put more about what you did instead of the actual job description? Yes. I think if you can be very clear and succinct to summarize what the job description was, in maybe 1 or 2 sentences, awesome. And then, of course, you want to highlight what you specifically did. So I remember one experience that I always tend to highlight is a research experience that I did, and I was a quote unquote research assistant. And that can be very vague and very broad, and it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So of course, in the description, I put, yes, I was research assistant, that was the title. And I put that I was in charge of data collection, and I was in charge of collecting different metrics on patients, but I also included that I specifically, you know, collected hip and waist circumference measures from African American women of color. I drove them to the phlebotomist. I did a lot of things that gave me the opportunity to like interact with them personally. We were in very intimate spaces, had very intimate conversations, but I also had a job that I did. So yeah, I think you should always highlight what it is that you did specifically, in addition to what the actual job description entails. These are some like really, really great questions, and it's 8:55. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, president@snma.org. But I will go ahead and hand it back over to Lauren. Again, I'm so glad to be back. I'm so excited for you all. Please continue to reach out to the SNMA for any way that we can support you, and definitely get involved with diverse medicine because it's the plug. All right, well, you have a good night, and I'll hand it back over to Lauren.
Thank you so much, Oma, for that really helpful presentation. Real quick, I did see a lot of attendees asking if you'd be willing to share your. Awesome, I see her giving a thumbs up. So we will be sharing that. I'm sure we'll be posting it on Diverse Medicine. That might be the easiest way for you guys to access that. And so we're just about at the end of the hour here. I want to really thank you guys for joining in on the first webinar of this year's application bootcamp. We have a lot of great stuff coming up. So I saw some of you asking questions about how to fill out the app, specifically different sections of the AMCAS application, and other questions about secondaries and interviews and so forth. So we're going to cover all that for you this month. But our next webinar is going to be Wednesday next week. I just want to inform you guys that we did have a time change. It's going to be 1 hour earlier. So make sure you tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll go back to our normal 8 p.m. But thank you so much for joining. This webinar has been recorded, so we're going to post it on Diverse Medicine for you guys. So make sure you guys create your profile and connect with us, and we'll see you all next week. Have a great night, guys.